Hey boy, hey.
Hey, what's up? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you. We both got some coffee. We're ready to chat some records.
I busted my butt mowing the lawn today in the soaking wet grass, which was not a great life decision on my part, but it's done now. It's over with. And now it's time to record.
Aaron is not abiding by Appleton's no mow May.
No, that would drive me crazy. This is the story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down.
Hey everybody. Welcome to the new episode of Just One More Record.
Hey.
My name is James Dorn, and with me, as always, my partner in crime, the guy who knows Careless Whisper is the only song that you boombox outside of someone's window. The guy who will always wake you up before he goes, Aaron Rohde.
How did I know it was going to be Wham? How did I know?
Because George Michael was a beautiful man.
I can't disagree with you there. There's just no argument there.
So Aaron's parents gifted him their record collection when we started going down this rabbit hole, and one of the records was Wham's Make It Big, which is out of print, and I was a little bit jealous at that time.
You were very jealous at that time.
Very jealous. I have since bought a copy of it, and then Aaron was very skeptical about listening to it, and I'm like, man, just listen to it.
It just hurts me when the one song I know from a group is the first song on an album.
Yeah.
I get a little leery with some of that stuff.
And then I told him to hang out until Careless Whisper.
It was worth it. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Now, admittedly, the middle between the first song and the last song isn't always the best there, but
hey, it's all about how you start and how you finish.
True story. So what are we going to do today, Aaron?
We're going to switch things up a little bit again today. We've got some fun things in store for you guys. We're going to do, since this is episode 8, I believe, or 9, somewhere in there.
Getting close to the Big 10.
We're also closing in on 100 listens, which is very exciting for us.
We thank you for that.
Absolutely.
We when we got on Spotify, we felt like we actually accomplished something.
And we noticed quite a big jump in listens, too, which was kind of awesome.
Right. So, and then I checked out our Twitter page. We got some people from Germany and other countries checking us out. So I want to say thank you. That's exciting. And you made my day.
And I hope we don't change your view on what America is.
Yeah, we're from the Midwest, the home of rock and roll.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about, the state of our collections.
Yes. So for me, I am just, I think, a little over a year now for my entire year of collecting.
And I think I am 3 months behind where James is. So I'm closing in as well.
All right. So on that note, has it been fun, Aaron?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You regret getting sucked in?
I don't. My wallet and my bank account may at some times, but I definitely do not.
Well, the plus side is you're not going to have money for drugs.
Right. Exactly.
Aaron doesn't do drugs. I just want to make that clear.
I think you and I are at two kind of different points with our collection, mostly because I think I started with 120, 130, somewhere in there.
And I think I only had, I had a big stack that I had for some reason in my basement. A couple of them were my dad's, which I don't have a ton of records or a ton of anything that was my father's. Those I was going to keep no matter what. And I want to say it's maybe 3 or 4 that were his. And then I had bought some random ones when vinyl was long dead and in the ground at like garage sales just because they were bands that I liked. And then I had a bunch of stuff that I really didn't want. So I probably cumulatively maybe had like 20 when I started out.
Yeah.
And I sold a bunch of them because it was either beat to hell or just stuff I didn't want.
It's kind of like how CDs got to a point. When I moved into the house last year, I tossed all my CDs. I think I have 2 or 3 left, and it's only because there's one artist that I listen to who only sells his music on CDs, and that's the only way you can get it.
Who is that?
His name is Tom McDonald. He is a rapper originally from Canada. He lives out in LA now. So what he does is really cool. So he sells his CDs. He autographs every copy.
That's huge.
He packs, ships, labels. He does all of that himself, just him and his girlfriend, out of their house, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I don't have a CD player anymore, so when I get one of his albums, I import it into my iTunes and I, put it on my iPod or my phone or whatever, so I can listen to it. But I like to support those young upcoming artists like that.
Yeah. So, little side question. So, do you think it's okay to buy a record or a CD without the intention of listening to it? Or are you such a purist where you're like, I don't want to own something if I'm not going to listen to it?
Yes and no. You and I were kind of talking about this the other day about there's a difference between collectors and enthusiasts. And the one thing I always kind of related toward is the retro video game world and collecting market.
So full disclosure, we'll take a little side explanation note here. I worked at GameStop for 9.5 years before getting into healthcare, and grew up playing Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and then Aaron also has a pretty big hobby of video games. So video games are important to us.
If you can tell, we are maybe a little nerdy toward that side. But
we love the Pixel Game Squad.
Absolutely. So a lot of those guys, they will buy these retro systems, these retro games, still in box or just the box or, the game manuals, and it sits on a shelf. And yeah, you can make your display look cool, but if you're not playing the game, the system, I don't necessarily see a point in that. I still have a couple of Game Boys upstairs that I still use occasionally. Records are kind of the same way to me. You and I were just talking about how we entered a raffle for a potential record this morning, and one of
the Second Chance Record Group.
Yep. One of the options you could win is an Ozzy Osbourne picture disc.
And we've talked in the past, but we'll review it in case you haven't heard this in the past. The quality with picture discs, whereas they look quite cool, usually the audio is not very good.
So for me, that is something that, if I win this raffle, I would probably pick up that picture disc solely for the purpose of framing it and hanging it on the wall.
Yeah, I would agree. I, a while back, had bought a copy of Elton John's Yellow Brick Road from Walmart. That was a picture disc. That was the first time ever buying a picture disc. And I was shocked how bad the audio was.
And you kicked yourself for getting rid of it, too.
No, I got rid of it. I got rid of it because I was like, yeah, I could frame it. But I got rid of it and I bought a black vinyl copy of that album. It's a great album. And because it felt like it was a sore spot in my collection.
Right.
Because I didn't have a good copy of this album.
So I try not to. I'm at the point now where I've kind of realized this. There was a period there when I first got into it where I think I was just buying things just to say I was buying more records. Now I'm at the point where if I don't think I'm going to listen to it more than once or twice, I try not to buy it. So for me, I like to buy records with the exception of some of like the rare collectible picture discs, knowing that I'm going to use it and listen to it. So I consider myself more of an enthusiast than a collector.
So let's take things a step further, and then I'll share my thoughts. So let's say you have an artist that you really like sitting in front of you, okay? It is a sealed copy of that album, okay? So let's say it's very hard to find, but it's worth a lot of money sealed, and you're just going to kill that value. Are you going to open it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm absolutely the same way. I will not leave stuff in the package. I've never been like that. I'm like, if it's something I like, I want to enjoy it.
Right. And I have Funko Pops sitting on my desk that I've taken out of the box. A lot of people display theirs in box yet.
I throw mine in boxes.
Yeah,
I have a bunch of Funkos.
I am not a fan of buying things without the intent of use.
Yeah. So,
but
go ahead.
We'll take that a step further and say we're not judging you if you are that way.
Absolutely.
If that's how you want to collect and you want to do things, be our guest. But that's just not the way
you love picture discs and you don't care how they sound. That's cool.
Right.
So me, when it comes to my purchasing, so I was also in the same spot where you were recently, where I was just buying stuff just to buy stuff, and I took things a bit far at times. Um, did I find a bunch of bands that I really like by a happy accident? Absolutely. Did I get one or two in my collection that I'm probably going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to listen to that a lot? Right, definitely. But sometimes I got such good deals on these, like I'm talking maybe $1, $2, $3, and I was like, I'm going to roll the dice on this. Like, it's in good condition. So like when I'm on the auctions, if Armando throws up something that he's like starting bids $1 and nobody's interested in, I'll probably almost always take it.
I got a very good album. It's a soundtrack album from Rappin' back in the late 80s, early 90s for $1 and off of one of these auctions. And I really enjoy that album. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where I like to take those risks for the the $1, $2, $3 records.
Yeah, am I going to take a risk like that on a $30 record?
No.
I mean, other than Old Dirty Bastard, because that's exactly what that was. No, I won't do that. But I definitely have a couple records up on my shelf that I may not listen to. And I haven't decided if I'm going to get rid of them. I may eventually go through a big purge and get rid of some of those cheap records. I don't have a plan on doing that right now. Like one of them I got was a Cleopatra Jones soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I got that for $1. Right. And then about a week later, I was at our local mom and pop shop, and they were selling it brand new for $20. So I was like,
there's also something different about, you really enjoy this one band, this one artist, and you kind of feel like you have to have all of their releases. So I think that's kind of different.
Yeah, I got one or two bands that I could see myself buying everything regardless of the quality.
And if this rapper that I was talking about earlier, if he were to start releasing his music on vinyl records, I would probably buy all of them.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I can't guarantee I'd listen to them, every month or whatever, but I would probably buy them all.
Absolutely.
And Tom, if you're listening, please start releasing them on vinyl.
Of course he's listening. He's a huge fan. Him, Rivers Cuomo from Weezer.
Tom and Nova, if you're listening, shout out.
Chance the Rapper's listening. The Weeknd listens. Everybody listens to us.
Man, that would be awesome.
All right.
So I think that kind of brings us to our next question of at what point do you consider getting rid of some of these records?
That's a tough choice. For me, I think that...
I guess let's start out with how many you have in the collection at the current time.
So at the time of our recording, I have a lot of records inbound. Like I went on a splurge with Armando. We did I'm not going to get into depth on this because I don't know if he wants to share this part of information. Needless to say,
Chelsea, if you're listening, I would fast forward a couple minutes.
Earmuffs. So I have like one box that's coming in that's going to I have between 22 and 25 records coming. And it was kind of my birthday present. It's my birthday at the end of the month to myself, and Aaron chipped in some money for it. And then there was an auction last night. There's one tonight. So, of course, I'm going to have some more records coming in. So, cumulatively, conservatively speaking, I guess I'm probably going to have in the neighborhood of 30 to 35 records coming in the next couple weeks. So, at this point, looking at my collection, I have 322 records. I believe it's actually 323 because I have one polka musician, which, don't laugh, it's a local band. So I kept it because of the heritage of the area.
Which local band?
It's Elroy Berkowitz.
Okay.
Was recorded in Manitowoc. He's got two volumes. Ironically, the second volume is on Discogs, but the first one is not. I haven't looked in a while. Maybe it's since been added.
That's one of those that's probably not very easy to find unless you're from the area.
Probably true. Where are you sitting, buddy?
So I have
quantity.
I have one, maybe two. I don't remember now. I think I have one album incoming from Armando. It's a Run DMC album.
He found another one because he pulled it out during the auction.
Did he?
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited about. It's Raising Hell.
He's going to put it up tonight, actually.
Okay. It's a very good album. One of their first. So including that one, I am at 208. again, I started out with maybe 120, 130. So
So
I've purchased 80, 85, somewhere in there.
And I've purchased probably about 300. So Aaron, what is your, because Discogs gives you the range of value on our collections.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your low, medium, and high value?
My low is 1.9 thousand, medium 3.3, and high is 6.3.
And my low is 3.4K, 5.6K, and I'm approaching 10,000 at 9.8.
Which is insane to me. I never thought that a collection of something would be worth that.
Oh, I could pay out. So my record collection on the high side is valued at more than I own my car.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely just insane to me.
Yeah.
Just thinking about that for a second. Now, granted, if I went up and sold all these, I'm sure my actual, what I would get would be more between 3.4 and 5.6.
Right. The other thing is you can't put a price tag on the happiness that these
Right. And I'm happy to say most of my collection's in really good shape.
Right. And I'll throw a little plug in here. The last couple of weeks have been difficult for James and I at work. And these records and, for me, video games are something that I use to decompress.
Yeah. I've had a real stressful couple of weeks at work.
So you can't put too much value on your own mental health. I strongly encourage you guys to go out and find something that you can do for an hour a day just to unwind. And
absolutely. I'm going to tell you right now, especially coming out of a pandemic, I have never seen so many people fall off the wagon, working in the ER off of alcohol and drugs, people that were clean for years and they lost their jobs because of COVID and kind of went off the wagon and were in this horrible shame cycle as a result of it. So my advice to you, going along with what Aaron's saying, is take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Find something that you love. Eat good quality food. Rest. Exercise. If you are at a point where you are having some depression or mental health issues, asking for help does not make you weak. It makes you strong.
Feel free to reach out to us too. We have the email, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. If you need something, we can help you with it.
You need some advice on, who to talk to. We are nurses. We're not perfect. We're not the best in the world, but we will try to steer you in the right direction. We will not be your therapy, but we'll try to help you get in contact with
this podcast could be your therapy.
There you go. We'll try to get you, we'll help you find the numbers for your local crisis, right, or whatever the case may be. But fair warning, if you tell us anything that you're doing is illegal, or you tell us that you're thinking about killing yourself, we probably would call your local police department just to make sure you're safe. Not to get you in trouble, but to make sure you're safe.
Yep. But just find something. Records, great way to do it. We're not saying you have to go out and buy a $500 turntable and 200, 300 records.
Hey, you could maybe just have a Spotify or Pandora account and just get some headphones on and just listen to music if that helps you relax.
Spotify and a good pair of headphones goes a long way.
So, when you're looking at your collection, what band do you own the most of? Let's do your top three.
This is tough. So, there are two that I own 4 albums from.
The one of them is banjo.
One of them's not banjo. I promise you that. One is a group that I purchased 4 of, and that is Weezer. And then one is that my dad had 4 of, and that is Jimmy Buffett. They may have been my mom's. Who am I to judge?
Seems like your dad likes to say a lot of things in your collection were your mom's.
They both kind of do. They both do for sure.
Was it? It's Jim and Lori, right?
Yep.
You guys, you don't need to be ashamed. You like what you like.
Even if it's Wham.
Yeah.
So I own 4 from each of them. I think the next, there's a couple that I own 2 or 3 of, but the next one is NF, where I own just about everything that he's put out. And I think that's 3. So that's it for me. There are other groups that I would love to get more of. Guns N' Roses is one, Styx is another, but that's where I'm at currently. How about in your collection?
I would say probably my number one is the Black Keys. I currently own 8 of their records. Love Dan Auerbach. And then I'd probably say one of my next ones is the Beastie Boys, which I am at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Which is a shock. I never would have guessed that the Beastie Boys were one of your top owned.
Yeah, no, I love me some Beastie Boys. Just a great band.
Oh yeah.
I do technically have 7 of the Beatles, but 2 of them are the White Album. One is one that my wife Chelsea just bought me for my birthday, which is at the end of the month, and it's got the full version of the White Album, and then alternate takes and demo versions of songs from the White Album, referred to as the Escher demos. Mm-hmm. So Aaron will probably end up with my other copy at some point. And then, honestly, it's kind of a crapshoot after that. I got like 3 or 4 Butch Walker albums. I'd say those are probably my big ones.
Yeah. So what's our next question?
When did you feel like a collector?
Oh man, this is a tough one to answer. There's a couple things. The first one is being invited to and joining the Second Chance Record Group. Being around all those people who are avid music fans and collectors definitely makes you feel part of something. And then the other one was getting my first album that was actually quote unquote worth something.
What album is that?
That is the Run DMC album that I have coming. It's called Raising Hell.
Raising Hell. He's got another copy. He's going to probably put up tonight. Looks like
which is kind of surprising. It's been hard to come by.
Yeah. He called it a heavy hitter.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess for me, I would probably say when I started getting up there in quantity and I started getting those boxes from the Second Chance Record Group where I was getting like 10, 15 records. And then absolutely when I got to the point where I was down at the IKEA, because the nearest IKEA is about 2.5 hours away. I even took a picture, put it on my Facebook, where I said, when your hobby crosses the line to obsession. So that thing holds probably like 1,250 records, and, with the pace
about another year or two.
Yeah. Well, I did the math. I said, if I continue at the pace I was at, was probably 3 years, but I do seem to be ramping up a little bit.
We tell ourselves a lot that we need to slow down with our purchasing, and it doesn't seem to be happening.
It'll last for about a week, and then it goes away.
All right, what we got next?
So, Aaron, what are some of your favorite records?
Okay.
Some of the ones that you listen to the most, and maybe some that you got that were a surprise that you didn't think was going to be as good as you ended up feeling.
So as far as surprises, I know I'm going to get lots and lots of hate on this. I'm going to show my age, all that kind of stuff. But Boston's self-titled album was very surprising to me. The only song I really knew off of that album was More Than a Feeling. But I can say that whole album is very good in its own right.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of records, as I talked about starting out, but that was one of the ones that transitioned over. And I have a copy of where the vinyl's in beautiful condition, but it's got some ring wear on the sleeve, which I love ring wear. I think it's character.
Right, absolutely. As long as there's no water damage or anything like that.
Correct.
I'm not too picky about some of the covers. Yeah. Another one that surprised me was Cheap Trick at Budokan. I'm not a huge live album guy personally, but this one it kind of blew me away.
It was an iconic live album, and a lot of bands have tried to recreate the magic and have since played there. So that's a big heavy hitter as far as history of rock music goes. And that was the album that put them on the map. That's why if you hear the song I Want You to Want Me on the radio, it's from that album. It's not the studio version.
A couple other ones. One that really surprised me is DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper.
I need to buy that.
I got this one mostly because it's, the Fresh Prince. It's just a super fun, upbeat album. You can't really go wrong when you're listening to this one. Will Smith isn't, the best rapper of all time or anything like that.
But he's fun.
But he's fun, absolutely.
And you got that from Josh Noblet off the Second
did.
Chance Record Group.
I did.
What's
we
his?
actually saw a copy of it at the local store the other day, too, that I almost picked up for you.
Right. And I would have turned that down. I love Will. Positive guy.
It's such a good album to listen to and just vibe out with. A couple others, Dr. Dre's The Chronic. Fun fact, this was actually the first album that I bought for the turntable. We were setting up the other turntable that I have. Went to the store to get a new belt, and
Rest in peace, Jim's turntable.
I haven't given up on it yet. Close, but not yet. I was kind of fingering through the rap album section that I typically comb through, and I had this in my hand. I frequently talked about it to James, and he said, "You can afford to buy one record today."
Exclusive Company has a rap section.
Yeah, it's very small, but it's there. And that is probably the only time I've ever gone there and only walked out with one album.
Too true.
Probably the last time it'll ever happen as well. Another one, Hotel California. That was one of the first I played. I got that one from my dad's part of the collection. I put that on the turntable. My girlfriend's dad is a huge Eagles fan. So
Hard not to be.
I sent him a video of Hotel California, and I said, nothing beats listening to Hotel California on vinyl, and he told me the smoke cloud in the room was just not big enough.
That's nice. That's funny.
The one that also kind of surprised me, I'll talk about two more albums here. One that surprised me that I play a lot is Kiss's Destroyer.
Being a monstrous Kiss fan, that made me really happy when Aaron said that.
It's a very good album. Kind of blew me away right away.
I do have it, a special version of that I got picked up at Walmart. It's the resurrected version on orange vinyl. Still pretty easy to find if you're a Kiss fan.
Does that have the extended intro on it as well?
Yeah, it's the same album. It's just just they not edited it. The audio quality is more like an enhanced copy of it.
And then the last one that kind of means a lot to me is Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. I have the 20th anniversary box set compilation of this album. It was the first CD I ever remember buying, so it's just kind of holds a lot of meaning there for me.
I need to buy that album.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to come by for a little bit there.
I've seen a couple copies of the regular version. I don't need to get the box set of it, but I definitely think that's one I need to get.
One other one, now that I'm combing through my list here, is Michael Jackson's Thriller. I think that's a must-own for just about any music fan. And then Blizzard of Oz. That's one that my dad would always play the CD a lot when we were kids. I'm pretty sure I scratched up his copy of that.
I believe your exact words were, scratch the hell out of it.
Yes, and then I also did that to one of his Poison CDs and probably a Guns N' Roses one as well. But that was the second trip I took to the record store. I think I picked that up. I sent a picture of it to my dad, and he got very, very pumped and very excited about that one. So I enjoyed that as well.
By the way, Jim, if you're listening, we would absolutely be on board with a record listening party with you. Me, you, Aaron. I'll bring some of my records over. It'll be fun.
There would be no duplicates played, I'm sure.
None whatsoever. All right, so a couple of things from my collection. Of course, as I often say, AC/DC Back in Black, just a phenomenal album that I absolutely love. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. I got a copy of copy of Killer by Alice Cooper. It's actually autographed. It's very meaningful to me. Got this autographed in 2002 when I met Alice. Vinyl was long dead and in the ground. He looked at it and said, "Man, I haven't seen one of these in years." And
that's such a cool story.
It is. It was cool. Then I saw him in concert the next night. The vinyl's not the best condition, so if I could find a good condition OG copy of it, I'd probably buy it and swap it out. Going down the line, I got two Bay City Rollers albums, their self-titled album, and then also Rock and Roll Love Letter. My mom was a big Bay City Rollers fan, and they're kind of like my guilty pleasure. They're just upbeat and happy, and I really love them. Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique's probably a pretty popular one for me. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of sampling of some iconic albums, like there's Led Zeppelin guitar riffs in there. And these guys don't alter them. It's like a straight up pull from them.
Well, kind of cool. They were one of the first groups probably to start doing that too.
Right. Produced with the Dust Brothers. Just iconic guys. Roberta Flack, which was a recent purchase of mine, Killing Me Softly. Something I adore, and I try to make it into my heavy rotation. The Black Pumas.
This is an album that I think both you and I really enjoy.
Yeah, so I bought the white cream-colored copy a while ago, and I bugged Aaron about this over and over, like, you need to get this, you need to get this, you need to get this. And then
me, being the stubborn music fan that I am, just kind of kept blowing it off. Not necessarily blowing it off, but I said, oh yeah, I'll check it out at some point.
So Armando got the 1-year anniversary version with on colored vinyl with an extra LP in there that's a live performance and a 7-inch with some covers on it. So I gave Aaron my own copy, and Aaron...
I fell in love with it the first time I played it, for sure.
He's like, man, it's okay.
Yeah, not true.
Not true. Bob Seger's Night Moves, just a phenomenal album, and I say that a lot.
I really need to pick that one up.
So this is his first time playing with the Memphis Sound, which is a well-known studio band that's been on just so many classic albums that I possibly couldn't name them all. And not only is Night Moves a great song, but the whole album doesn't disappoint you.
Mm-hmm.
They had a copy on last night in the auction, and I almost bought it for Aaron, but for some reason I was thinking he had it.
Unfortunately, I do not.
It only went for $4.
What?
Sorry. I know.
Okay.
I know. Carole King's Tapestry, that was one of the big surprises to me. Aaron and I got that when we went to the Antique Mall together, and we were digging through, and I took a chance on it because I knew it was a classic album. It blew me away.
Which, side note, that was probably one of the more fun trips that we've had through this whole collecting time.
Yeah, that was, Aaron said he felt like one of the first times he felt like a real collector.
For sure.
I also enjoy the Cheap Trick Budokan album. That's on my list. Cher's Take Me Home. So I was on the auction.
The story behind this album gets me every time.
So we were on the auction, and Armando pulls his album out, and it's Cher in like a gold bikini. It's from 1979 on Casablanca Records, the same album record label that Kiss was on. And I believe Gene Simmons and Cher were dating at the time, and she's wearing this big, elaborate Valkyrie headdress. No idea what this album was, because Cher has so many albums. And it's straight up disco. Mm-hmm. And I love it. This also led me to one of my other obsession, which is albums stamped with the Django Chico stamp, which is from a defunct store in the Portland, Oregon area. Daft Punk, Random Access Memories surprised me. I normally don't like electronic music. This album is just solid. Reminds me of being a kid and being a roller skating. Right?
You got that shortly before they split.
Yeah, I had good timing. It's a little hard to find right now. The Darkness, Permission to Land, stupid hard to find.
Yeah, it's insane how hard to find that one is.
And it's expensive.
Yeah.
Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Actually, when Aaron got his turntable, bought him a copy of that.
Yeah, and it did not disappoint. It's a great album.
Definitely. So Delaney and Bonnie and Friends was a huge surprise with their album On Tour. Armando put that up on the auction. Eric Clapton's actually on this album with them. Just amazing, and I cannot recommend this album enough. Duran Jones and the Indications, their self-titled album, total like old school soul sound. If you like the Black Pumas, you will love this. Dusty in Memphis. So Dusty Springfield, a singer from the 1960s, just a masterful soul album. And then we are getting near the end of my list here. I'm just double checking, making sure there's nothing that really kind of jumps out at me.
How about that Swamp Dog?
Oh yes, good old Swamp Dog. Love, Loss, and Auto-Tune. Talks about having sex with his ex. and how great it makes him feel.
The ripe old age of 70-something.
72, I believe. Logger's Daughter, the album I talked about on the last episode, and I had an interaction with one of the members of the band online. That's just great. Michael Jackson's Thriller, Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil.
Yeah, that's another one that I should probably put on my list of 2 owns.
The Motley Crue.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta get the one with the pentagram on it. That is the absolute classic.
I gotta believe that one's probably a little harder to find at this point.
And then Steve Miller, Book of Dreams, which I'll leave to Aaron in my will. Mickey Disco album.
That Mickey Disco album was kind of funny. James sent me a video of it playing. I'm like, what is that? Because I actually really enjoy that. And his response was, "Are you joking?" Which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I didn't believe him on that there. All right. So, Aaron, what have we learned about each other's musical tastes?
We've learned quite a bit.
I would agree with that.
Obviously we kind of grew up in different eras of music, different time periods, but we both appreciate music in the same way, I think. You tend to, I think, pay a little more attention to the overall production of an album and how it's put together from start to finish. And I think part of that is, when you were growing up, people put together entire albums. They didn't put together this hit song and this hit song and this hit song and just smash them all together on one album.
I think that comes from a lot of producers these days, just kind of sitting down and going, okay, you're going to have this song, this song, this song.
Right. And you also kind of have musical tastes that fit different moods and affects. A few of the albums you've given me have been, toward the more emotional side, the more moody side. T-Rex's The Slider was
deceptively moody.
kind of both, right? J.D. McPherson's was fun. Upbeat Yola was somewhere of that, even though it was a little on the softer side. And then Orville Peck, I don't even know what to say about that one.
That one was intentionally meant to be a shock value album
right.
for you.
And I think your musical taste is very, very wide and very broad, but it's also similar at the same time, if that makes sense.
It does. I find that interesting. So Aaron, anybody who ever meets Aaron, Aaron is definitely, when he comes into a room, he's the guy that kind of stands off to the side and watches what's going on and observes things more. Mm-hmm. Whereas I come in the room and I kind of hit you over the face with my presence, and people know when I walk in.
But that's why you and I gel together so well.
I would agree with that. So when Aaron started giving me his albums, one of the first things I noticed is, with the exception of probably the Alice Cooper album that he just got me, and maybe Jack Johnson, all of the album choices are very deep, very emotional, very raw at times, particularly The Weeknd. The Weeknd just assaults you with how emotional he is.
And I think that's his intent when he puts together an album too.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. It was just, I was in awe of how overwhelming it was. I just felt this flood of emotions.
And I think that was very different from how he put the cover of that one together too, because it's very anime-esque. I think
absolutely.
When you look at it, and I guess anime from Japan is kind of like that too, where they take on some deep topics and issues too, but they do it in a more fun way, I guess.
Oh, hands down. So that took me back. I was a little surprised by your choices, not because I thought they were bad, but just VF was obviously working through a lot of things on his songs, his feelings about his career and the pressure to perform and so on. And
I think part of it comes from just the fact that I listen to so much rap and hip hop music that, the music and the sound isn't always the focus of some of that stuff, and it's more lyrical content too.
I don't disagree at all with that. You ready to do some reviews?
Absolutely. Let's jump
all right. So Aaron presented me with a copy of Khalid's American Teen 2017 release double LP on RCA. So normally I do research on the artist beforehand, before listening to it. I didn't do that this time. I did it afterwards. So when I put this album on, one of the first things I really noticed was how stripped down it felt. So like I said earlier with The Weeknd, he kind of just hits you from every direction, constantly just overwhelming you with sounds and feelings. Khalid didn't do that.
And I think I prefaced this one by saying, he could be the musical cousin of The Weeknd before you listen to it.
Right, and I didn't know what to expect from him looking at the cover. Aaron said he looked like he might be high. Well, to me, it looks like he's standing there in almost like a zombie-like pose. He looks tired.
Kind of like I felt this morning after the party last night.
Yeah, Aaron went to a work function last night, as opposed to hanging out with me and listening to records. No, he's got a network. I get it. All right. So, from the moment that needle hit my table, I felt like he was really just laid back and almost casual with everything that he did. The first track, American Teen, seemed optimistic and lighthearted, and that was nice. I appreciate that. Track 2 was a song that Aaron told me was probably the most well-known track off of the album. And admittedly, when I first started listening to it, I didn't see why. Young, Dumb, and Broke felt like it was a teen complaining about teen problems. I have no money, I make bad choices. And then later in the night, I found myself singing the song, the chorus in particular, as I tried to fall asleep at night. And he definitely talks about getting high in this song.
It totally catches you off guard when you're singing it, hours later, which I appreciate.
I was like, young, dumb, it's catchy. It's a little bit of a earworm.
Yeah, it is.
So track 3, Location, didn't come across as anything special to me. It felt a little bland with singing and with content. So track 4 is titled Another Sad Love Song, and boy, did it live up to its title. It was an excellent blend of both synthetic sounds and natural instruments, and the transitions between the two were seamlessly blended. The song also had a little bit of an earworm chorus to it. With the transition to the B-side, it seemed like a little bit more of a vocal range was demonstrated. It was almost like he woke up to me. At this point, I'm feeling like I'd like to hear him sing about anything other than relationship problems. Track 5, Saved, did seem like it was featuring the Chipmunks singing back up.
Which I did not know.
Yeah, it wasn't the Chipmunks, but definitely sounded like it. Track number 7, entitled 18, and that's the number 8 and then teen, was infused with a little more energy. Kind of came across as a dance number to me. He still has his laid-back tone, but I could see this track being played in clubs as it's got kind of a catchy beat. Even has a little bit of a light piano drifting around the periphery. This is easily, to me, one of the best songs on the album. So,
one thing I think is kind of interesting is you shared to me, when you listened to this on Spotify, you had a sort of it's okay feeling.
Oh, hands down, this album did not sound good on Spotify to me.
Yeah. But when you put it on the table, it's got a completely different sound.
Yeah, so that tells me that they cut a lot of sound off on the digital version.
And I think this is the first modern album that I've heard described that way. When you listen to an album like Dark Side of the Moon or Hotel California was another one that I thought sounded a lot better on a vinyl than it did on Spotify or anything like that. I had never really heard a modern album described in that way, but it was kind of interesting to hear you say that about this one.
Yeah, I noticed it instantly. All right, so the facts that I found out. So I didn't want to skew my impression of Khalid before looking into it. So as I said earlier, this album was released in 2017, and it was his debut album. The first singles released were Location, Saved, and Young, Dumb, and Broke. And this kind of surprised me as I felt Location was one of the weakest tracks on the album. Released in March 3rd of that year. It was certified platinum by October. Received a Grammy Award nomination for Best Urban Contemporary Album. Location was nominated for Best R&B Song. In August of 2018, it received double platinum status. Khalid Robinson was age 19 at the time of the release of this album and largely received positive feedback from the critics.
See, and I didn't know that it was a certified platinum album.
Double platinum, actually.
Yeah.
So in closing, would I have bought this album for myself? Probably. I may have. I did have this in my hand twice while I was at Walmart, but never pulled the trigger because I didn't know enough about it.
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely keep this. I like what he was trying to do. It seems to me like something I'll probably put on while I'm doing stuff. I don't think that he demonstrated enough range for me to sit down and just listen to it.
Right.
So, but overall, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a great choice.
I think we've done very well picking stuff for each other while at the same time broadening each other's musical tastes. So for me, James got Weezer's OK Human, and I don't think it's a secret to anybody how much we enjoy Weezer, and we are into them right now.
I'm a diehard Weezer fan, and they had some rough years of album releases.
As any band does when you're sticking it out for 20 albums or so.
Yeah.
I do think you probably felt a little obligated to do me a solid after I got you Alice Cooper last time.
Oh, I made no attempt to hide that from you.
I am not going to complain. So to preface this review, the only song I had heard before I listened to it all the way through was the first track, All My Favorite Songs, which I love and I can totally relate to. I would love to be wealthy, love to go to parties, love being around a bunch of people, but at the same time, I also hate everybody.
I think that's where we have some overlap, as I'm a very outgoing person, but eventually I just get fried and I want to hide away from the world.
People are exhausting, that's for sure.
Especially with our professions where
Right.
we leave everything on the table. We talk constantly.
Yep.
A lot of the times we're trying to be a positive example for people's like dark days.
And those of you who know me know I do not like to talk at all. So the fact that I'm a nurse and I'm around people and I interact with people all day is kind of shocking to a lot of people.
So when I came into school at nursing school and I saw Aaron and I interacted with him and I found him to be quiet, that almost made me want to talk to him more.
I appreciate that. I can relate.
Yeah.
So the first two songs on this album definitely show the range of what Weezer can do when you compare it to the sound of Van Weezer. It's insane to me that two albums released so close together can have such different sounds, yet also be very good. I love that it sounds like they're singing in a different language in the second track, and this album has a much softer undertone to it, but it's not a sad album, I don't think.
No, I don't think it is either.
I could still vibe to it from start to finish, and I love that there's an orchestral sound. One thing that stands out to me from a production standpoint is the drum work, which I don't necessarily always pay attention to on an album, but it kind of stood out for this one. Playing My Piano was an interesting song to me.
It's probably my favorite song on the album.
I would agree with that. It's just him talking about drifting away while doing something that he loves and nothing else that matters in that moment. And that's kind of where our rant comes from a little bit earlier about, just finding something that you can drift away with, whether it's music, records, video games. I play golf to drift away. Just find something. This is an album that flows very, very well from start to finish. There's seamless transitions from song to song. And I also thought the song Dead Roses had a sort of Eleanor Rigby sound to it, which was very cool.
I'll agree with that.
That's one of my favorite Beatles sounds and songs, and I really enjoyed that they threw that in there. So the main questions we asked ourselves: would I have bought this album on my own? Yeah, I probably would have. I literally said to James, the day we bought these for each other, is there any OK Human in that stack?
And I had it in my hand, and I was trying to be sneaky about it, but I presented it to him.
I didn't see you pick it up.
I presented it to him, and I was like, you can buy this if you want. I'll pick you out something else.
Yeah. I would have bought it on my own. And the second one is, will I be keeping it? Will it make it into the heavy rotation? And that's also a yes.
I'm glad I got you something that could make it into the heavy rotation.
I really enjoyed this album. It's already gotten a lot of playtime in the last couple weeks. It's going to continue to get more. Any Weezer album is very good to me. This is my fourth one that I own now, most in the collection. It's an album that I can sit, relax to. It's easy to lose some of it if you try and multitask too much with it on. But, a playthrough of it goes through very fast, which I kind of enjoy. But you also get to listen and relax to it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
So we're going to do things a little differently here. We're not going to be presenting each other with a new record.
Because we're going to the Antique Mall.
We're going shopping. We're going to do a voiceover kind of recording of it, so you can kind of enjoy the ride with us of what we're picking out.
Yeah. We'll have to obviously tell you what we're looking at since it's going to be audio format, and I think big picture down the line. We are looking at transitioning this portion of it at the very least to video, but we're doing some research and we want to do this correctly.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're prepared and we do this right before we just jump up to it.
Yeah.
So you could be on the lookout for a potential YouTube page to pop up with us.
And our bonus episode will be out probably shortly after this one. Tentatively going to call it Just One More Record B-Sides.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And just like B-Sides, sometimes they're better than the actual album, sometimes they're not.
Right. Don't expect too much going in. Just try to keep an open mind.
Right.
So as always, you can catch us on Facebook, on Twitter. We have the Gmail.
Yep. And you can get to our Gmail from our Facebook page.
Yep.
There's
you can
a button.
also get through it from Spreaker as well, if that's how you're listening.
Yeah. And then hopefully we'll be on Apple soon. They're just being a little difficult to work with.
Yes.
Maybe because they're fending off a massive lawsuit at the moment.
So go ahead, drop us a follow on Spotify, if you'd be so kind, to our fans listening over in Germany.
We got at least one.
We are glad that you
Welcome.
found us. We appreciate any time you spend listening. We hope we don't skew your views of what Americans are. We're from the simple Midwest, so we like to keep it simple.
We do.
Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Enjoy
Yeah.
your Saturday. Thanks for listening. Just remember, there's always more vinyl.
There's always more vinyl.